Our first item this morning is general questions. Question number 1, Tom Arthur.
To ask the Scottish Government how it will support St Andrew's Day's events this year.
Minister Ben Macpherson.
Presiding Officer, modern Scotland's sense of national identity is proudly and passionately inclusive, diverse, compassionate, open and outward-looking, as emphasised by the Scottish Government's We Are Scotland campaign. Reflecting those values, the Scottish Government supports a range of initiatives on and around St Andrew's Day, including funding and supporting with partners the Scotland's Winter Festivals Event Fund, administered by Visit Scotland Events Directorate, Bemis Scotland's Multicultural Events Programme, and Scotland's participation in the global Fair Saturday movement in order to develop unique and distinctive events in Scotland to celebrate Scotland's national identity in both an inclusive manner and an internationalist spirit.
Tom Arthur.
Can I thank the Minister for that answer and also thank him for meeting with the cross-party group on St Andrew's Day earlier this year, which I convene. And can I ask the Minister if he will join me in commending the work of All About Barrhead's Business Improvement District, who are organising a festive fair to take place in Barrhead on St Andrew's Day, which will highlight the ethos of Fair Saturday and feature Scottish entertainment to celebrate St Andrew's Day as part of their Offie Scottish Winter Wonderland event. And will he also join me in thanking the entire All About Barrhead team and in particular their manager Andy Dunlop for the excellent series of cultural events that they organise in the town throughout the year?
Minister Ben Macpherson.
First of all, commend Tom Arthur and the whole cross-party group on St Andrew's Day and thank them for their engagement and their work. And I'm also delighted to commend the work of All About Barrhead in terms of their planning for St Andrew's Day and what they do all through the year. And thank the whole team at All About Barrhead. To fully harness the significant potential that events can provide, other partners across Scotland, whether that's local authorities or other bodies, community and business organisations such as All About Barrhead, are always encouraged to support and help deliver their own activity to join in the celebration of Scotland's winter festivals, and in this instance St Andrew's Day. And I'd particularly like to thank and commend the team at All About Barrhead for engaging this year in the Fair Saturday movement. The Fair Saturday movement is a global movement that encourages communities to follow the consumerism of Black Friday with a response through cultural activity on Fair Saturday that is in support of social causes and in a spirit of social empathy. This year, Fair Saturday falls on St Andrew's Day itself, the 30th of November, and I encourage as many communities across Scotland to sign up to hosting a St Andrew's Fair Saturday event by visiting at standrewsfairsaturday.org, just as All About Barrhead have commendably done.
Thank you. And call question 2, Ian Gray.
To ask the Scottish Government what progress has been made with the planned improvements to the Sheriff Hall roundabout on the A720.
Cabinet Secretary Michael Matheson.
The Scottish Government remains committed to undertaking improvements at Sheriff Hall roundabout. Transport Scotland continue to progress detailed development and assessment of the preferred option for the grade separation of the roundabout, with a view to publishing draft orders later this year for formal comment. As part of the essential preparatory work, Transport Scotland have undertaken ground investigation and environmental survey work, with the output informing the design of the scheme. In addition to this, extensive consultation with active travel stakeholders has been undertaken to ensure the proposed improvements include suitable provision for all users, including cyclists.
Ian Gray.
Well, these improvements have been promised for years now, and for commuters from my constituency, it sometimes seems like they've spent those years waiting in a queue at the Sheriff Hall roundabout. Could the Minister please give us a date when this work's going to start?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, Presiding Officer, the member will be aware this was a commitment which was provided within the City Region deal for the Edinburgh and East of Scotland, which was agreed back in 2017, and progress has been made during that time frame. As it stands at the present moment, the development and assessment work on the preferred option has been taken forward by Transport Scotland. It's difficult to give a specific date because the draft orders, once they are issued, allow individuals to comment on the matter, which could then trigger potentially a public local inquiry, which could all have an impact on the timeframe. But I can give the member an assurance that we are committed to taking this project forward, and I wish to see the project moving quickly as it can. However, there are certain issues that could have an impact on what the finalised timescale is for the project being completed.
Question number 3, Graham Simpson.
Thank you. To ask the Scottish Government whether it will provide an update on its plans to improve the Glasgow to East Kilbride train line.
Cabinet Secretary Michael Matheson.
Following extra seating capacity in May, the first physical works to inform proposals for future investment on the Glasgow East Kilbride line corridor will commence this month. Key site and geological investigations will be undertaken following tree and vegetation clearance by Network Rail along the 11-mile route corridor. The outcome will help to determine the right long-term solution on the route and will focus on providing enhanced connectivity, better transport integration with improved park and ride facilities. Our aim, whilst delivering this, is to move towards a carbon-free journey by progressing the option of efficient electrification.
Graham Simpson.
I thank the Cabinet Secretary for that answer. He mentioned in the answer improved park and ride facilities. That could, of course, happen if we get a new station for Hairmyres moving the site of the existing one. Could he give us a potential timeline on when we may see work or at least a decision being taken on that?
Cabinet Secretary.
I'm aware, Presiding Officer, of the request for additional parking at the Hairmyres station, and it's one of the issues which will be a principal part of the focus of the project to enhance the Glasgow East Kilbride line. I'm aware that Network Rail, along with Transport Scotland, have been working with South Lanarkshire Council and also with SPT on this very issue, and they are looking to try and make progress on plans for enhanced provision at Hairmyres. So this will all be part of the wider package of measures in order to look at improving services and connectivity on the line, and that's why we've provided Network Rail with some almost £25 million to start this work in order to come to a finalised plan on what the enhancements should be in the next couple of years.
Question number 4, Dean Lockhart.
Thank you. To ask the Scottish Government what its response is to the FSB Scotland report, Transforming Towns, Delivering a Sustainable Future for Local Places.
Minister Kate Forbes.
I have read and I welcome the FSB's report and their ideas and ambitions for our town centres. We're committed to supporting our town centres to be more diverse, successful and sustainable. And officials are meeting with FSB in October, along with the Scotland's Towns Partnership, to discuss the report in more detail.
Dean Lockhart.
Despite what the Minister has just outlined, according to a PwC report, more than 5 shops a week closed in Scotland's high streets in the first 6 months of the year, with increasing business rates cited as one of the main reasons. There are now over 22,000 firms across Scotland that are subjected to the large business supplement, pushing many of them close to bankruptcy. When will the Minister listen to leading organisations across Scotland and scrap the financially crippling large business supplement?
Minister.
Well, I thank the member for that question, and he'll know that the large business supplement is an issue of discussion at every budget, and I warmly welcome his engagement with this year's budget. The report he mentioned from the FSB also highlighted that over half of FSB's premises-based members pay no business rates, because we are committed to supporting the high street and ensuring that over 100,000 small businesses are lifted out of rates altogether.
Bruce Crawford.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Does the Minister agree with me that the FSB report on transforming towns provides a positive outlook for the Scottish economy, in particular for areas like Kippen, which features in the report's list of top 20 towns for self-employment rate, as well as the fact that Stirling's vacancy for non-domestic premises is well below the national average? Minister, is it not the case that this demonstrates that not only is the Stirling area open for business, but with the City-Region deal, as well as the Scottish Government's small business bonus scheme, Stirling is the place to do business?
Minister.
Well, I certainly agree that Stirling is one of the places to do business, and I won't mention that some of the towns at the top of that list are in the Highlands, because that would be for another day. But we certainly understand that businesses face challenges and huge opportunities in our evolving town centres, and that's why we have provided the £50 million Town Centre Fund to stimulate growth and investments, and to back the businesses that are doing well already in our town centres. And we'll continue to back small businesses through our town centre action plan.
Question number 5, Mark Ruskell.
Thank you. To ask the Scottish Government what discussions it has had with the operators of the ethylene plant at Mossmorran regarding the climate emergency and the need for a just transition.
Minister Paul Wheelhouse.
I met representatives of ExxonMobil on the 12th of September 2019 to discuss their £140 million investment through 2019 and 2020, which will significantly improve the site's efficiency, sustainability and environmental performance. The investment will support employment opportunities, and by implementing necessary infrastructure improvements, it will also help support the transition towards a net zero emissions economy in a way that is consistent with a just transition. We expect that alongside reducing greenhouse gas emissions, this investment will help address key issues identified by SEPA and the local community by lowering the frequency and impact of flaring, as well as associated issues such as noise pollution.
Mark Ruskell.
Can I thank the Minister for that response and welcome the £140 million that was announced by the operators this week. They were forced into that by the regulatory and political pressure that has been exerted on the company over the last few years. But not a penny of that investment will enable us to meet the net zero climate target that is currently in the Climate Change Bill. So will the Scottish Government back a Green New Deal for Fife and an industrial strategy for Fife that can help to plan investment and jobs in clean industries and technologies that have a genuine future?
Minister. Thank you, Presiding Officer. Certainly, Mr Ruskell raises important points. I would highlight the fact the Programme for Government, which has been announced in the last fortnight, points out a number of measures which will benefit the Fife economy in terms of support for industrial development and also for decarbonising the economy. I would say that in relation to the point he makes around the investment that's being made by ExxonMobil, I've had assurances, as I outlined in my original answer, that a considerable part of the investment will go to improving the efficiency of the plant, its energy efficiency, reducing greenhouse gas emissions from flaring, and obviously improve air quality in and around the area that's served by the plant. So therefore, I do believe that there is significant progress being made there, but we obviously note the point that we're working together as a Parliament to deliver a net zero emissions economy, and I look forward to working with Mr Ruskell on that.
Annabelle Ewing.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Would the Minister agree with me that Exxon's welcome announcement this week of the £140 million investment in the plant with 850 jobs attached is an illustration of what determined communities can achieve in ensuring that their voices are heard? And will the Minister confirm that robust scrutiny and monitoring of the plant will continue apace?
Minister.
Thank you. Certainly, I recognise the point. The investment announcement is indeed very welcome, and I pay tribute to the role that Annabelle Ewing and other campaigners have played in representing the concerns of the local community. The recent variations to the permits of both operators at Mossmorran will mean there is a clear timetable and detailed plans for implementing improvements to flaring, and these actions should improve compliance and drive further investments to better protect local communities. SEPA has a range of enforcement powers available to it. I understand the air quality monitoring equipment will remain in force and will be used throughout this process, and my hope is that they will not be required to use their enforcement powers, and ExxonMobil will move swiftly to implement the promised improvements.
Question number 6, Richard Lyle.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government how much compensation has been paid out to residents by the M8, M73, M74 motorway improvements project, including for noise pollution and house damage.
Cabinet Secretary Michael Matheson.
Approximately £10.75 million has been paid in compensation for the acquisition of land on the M8, M73, M74 motorway improvements project to date. Additionally, a number of Part 1 claims for the depreciation of value to property through the use of the works have been received. I can confirm that these are under active consideration by the District Valuer and that formal negotiations are expected to commence shortly.
Richard Lyle.
Can I thank the Cabinet Secretary for that answer? The Cabinet Secretary will be acutely aware of the many questions which I have asked both in this chamber and out with on behalf of my local constituents regarding the M8, M73, M74 improvement programme. I therefore ask, how soon can we get a fuller picture on whether my constituents will receive other compensation for their inconvenience, and how will that information be communicated to them?
Cabinet Secretary.
Presiding Officer, as I've confirmed, the Part 1 claims have been received and are currently under active consideration by the district valuer. This includes consideration of the part scheme noise readings against the predicted noise levels, reviewing nearby sales information and undertaking a number of external inspections. And I would anticipate that the initial SIF will be completed shortly and that formal negotiations will then commence directly with the members' constituents or their appointed agents thereafter.
Jamie Greene.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Much of the congestion that remains around the M8 is at Glasgow Airport, and the improvement project did very little to address that. The Cabinet Secretary might be aware of the efforts of the cross-party efforts of the A737 Action Group, which are hoping to reduce some of the fatalities on this road which feed into the M8 at the Glasgow Airport. Is he aware of this campaign, and can he update us on what action the Government is taking to address their concerns on that road?
Cabinet Secretary.
I am aware of the campaign, and as the member will be aware that we are actively looking at a range of potential options to help to address congestion around the M8, particularly around the Glasgow Airport area. One of the commitments we set out in the programme for government is to look at how we could use greater provision of public transport to help to reduce congestion in these areas, including the possibility of repurposing parts of the motorway network around Glasgow to help to address some of these issues by reducing cars on the M8 in itself. So there's a range of different measures that we are committed to taking forward to reduce congestion, including the repurposing of parts of the motorway for public transport.
Question number 7, Donald Cameron.
To ask the Scottish Government what action it is taking to ensure that vessels operating on the Clyde and Hebrides ferry service are robust and reliable.
Minister Paul Wheelhouse.
Under the terms of the CHFS2 contract, CalMac, as the operator, are required to keep the vessels seaworthy and in a good and efficient state of repair. This is done during the annual vessel overhaul of the Clyde and Hebrides ferry services fleet, and this includes maintaining the classification of the vessels with the relevant classification society, as well as complying with all other regulations and requirements, statutory or otherwise. In August 2018, the Scottish Government announced the creation of a £3.5 million resilience fund for the CalMac fleet during 2018-19, with a further £4 million allocated in the 2019-20 budget.
Donald Cameron.
The Minister may be aware that a ferry summit took place on Islay on Monday, chaired by his colleague Mike Russell and attended by a wide variety of organisations and individuals, including myself. All parties there present agreed a set of proposals which will shortly be published in the local paper, the Ewing. Will the Minister commit to working with the public bodies who developed these proposals so that Islay benefits as soon as possible from a ferry service with enhanced capacity?
Minister.
Well, I certainly welcome the positive remarks that Mr Cameron is making. Clearly, our officials participated in the summit and will be feeding back to me their thoughts on what can be taken forward. But I'm happy the summit took place and that there was obviously a very constructive discussion around improvements that are needed to meet the growing needs of the Islay economy, with the growth in distilling activity in the islands as well. We're conscious, of course, that there are also commercial plans for investment in ferry services at Islay, but I commit to work with the member and others around this chamber to ensure that we get the right balance and supply of ferries to meet the needs of the community in Islay going forward. And of course, the member will be aware that we're taking forward the start of our new ferries plan to go beyond 2022, and also updating the vessel replacement deployment plan to take on board the issues he's raised. Question number 8, Tom Mason.
Thank you. To ask the Scottish Government for an update into the progress of the Robertson Review into the regulation of legal services.
Minister Ashton.
The Scottish Government formally responded to the Robertson Review in June 2019, and that response set out that we will seek to build consensus as to the way forward with regard to the future of the regulatory framework prior to taking forward legislative change. We are currently working with the Law Society of Scotland, the Faculty of Advocates, in order to build that consensus. We committed in the programme for government, which was published on the 3rd of September 2019, to launch a consultation on reforming our legal services in early 2020.
Tom Mason.
I thank the Minister for that answer. A number of my constituents have raised serious concerns with some existing practices within the Scottish Legal Complaints Commission, particularly around transparency of investigations and the lack of oral representation during proceedings, as well as a lack of available appeal mechanisms. They believe that this may be in breach of their human rights. What assurances can the Minister give that this review will look at these vitally important issues in a timely manner?
Minister.
I thank the member for raising those what are quite important issues. And we do recognise that whilst the complaint system is integral, the Law Society of Scotland and others sought a review to consider the wider implications rather than just the complaint system. So my view is that there should be a joined-up, forward-looking regulatory framework of legal services in Scotland, and as such the system should be reformed through one piece of legislation rather than being done in a piecemeal fashion.
Thank you very much, and that concludes general questions. Now, before